C.H.U.Ds of TikTok on Twitter is one of my favorite accounts because they go and whoever runs that collects all of the crazy people for me, so I don't have to spend too much time trying to find all of this shit on my own, which is, impossible. I stumbled across this one the other day, which is absolutely bananas. You know what we're going to do? We're going to make this a little smaller so that she can speak for herself. This woman in this video who is very conservative and has something to say. And now the reason why I'm playing this video of just some random person, I don't even know who this person is. I don't even know what her name is. I don't know what she does for a living. I don't know anything about that at all. So why am I even bothering to play this video? Because it's a good example of what happens when people are misinformed, have no media literacy, and no capability for introspection, and no desire to actually investigate things and learn what the truth is before they post stuff. It's basically why misinformation is so dangerous. This woman is a good example of that. Let's listen to what she's got to say. How much more are we gonna take America?
I'm sure everybody heard last night that the Irish basically played a game of fuck around and find out, and they lit up their city. And why do you ask? Because Ireland are sick and tired of the governing class, who has let thousands of these migrants and illegal citizens into their countries, into their neighborhoods, and into their streets, where they've caused violence against.
Okay. So what is she talking about exactly? Well, in Ireland last week, there was a stabbing. And basically the right-wing Nazi types in Ireland kind of used that as an excuse to basically start a riot and to go out and start beating and murdering non-white people. That's basically what's going on in Ireland right now. There were riots and stuff, basically sort of race riots, because there was this sort of stabbing thing, and it turns out the person who did the stabbing has not actually been, as of now, I couldn't find any information about who they actually were, where they were from, but some of the news reports are saying that this person was an immigrant who has been in Ireland for around 20 years or so not a recent immigrant, but who went on a sort of a stabbing spree, right? And the right-wing, racist, white supremacist assholes here in the United States have jumped all over this, of course. Because, of course, they will. Of course they do. Anytime that there's anything that they can use in their little culture war to score brownie points and basically try to, get more of the normies on their side, they jump all over it. So that's what's going on in Ireland. And this woman here seems to be all for it. She seems to be super happy that the right-wing, racist, white supremacist types in Ireland have decided to get violent. Let's continue on.
Against their people. And you know what? The governing class and the police didn't do shit about it. So the Irish did. The Irish have stood up against the governing class, which is exactly what all of us need to start doing, because more of this shit is going to continue to happen. How much more of our nation is everyone willing to sit back and watch as it gets totally eroded from the inside out?
Now, how exactly would this be the governing class's fault that an immigrant went, a long-time immigrant, not a recent immigrant, once again, someone who is an Irish citizen, by the way, apparently, went on and committed a crime? Why is it the governing class's fault? Right? See, who actually determines how many immigrants are allowed to come into the country or whatever like that? Do nations have quotas? I mean, last time I checked, that was illegal, but I don't know. I don't live in Ireland. I know that, for example, in the United States, they used to have quotas way back in the day. They used to say, okay, only this many people are allowed to come Only this many people are allowed to come from Asia. Only this many people are allowed to come from Mexico, stuff like that. Is that even allowed anymore? At least I think in my country, in the United States, I think that's gone. I think you can't, that's not something they do anymore. I think what she may be talking about, if she wasn't a fucking idiot, would be refugees. That is something that you're seeing in Europe. You're seeing especially in Northern Europe, they're taking in refugees from the Middle East. You saw that a lot during last couple of years, last decade or so, because of the violence in Syria, because of ISIS and stuff like that. Lots of Syrian refugees, lots of Kurdish refugees, that kind of thing, were introduced into Europe for the first time. And it caused a lot of social strife, because Europe is not, I mean, as a continent, most of the countries in Europe are mainly homogeneous. You know, they're all white, and having significant amounts of minorities is not really a thing there. It's sort of new to the European experience. Now, of course, there were always non-white people who lived in all European countries. You know, there are black people that live in Britain. There's lots of people who are from, like, say, you know, the Indian subcontinent in Britain, right? Tons of people there, Pakistanis, you know, Indian people, that kind of thing, Hindus, stuff like that. And that's always been a thing for decades and decades and decades. But the difference here is that there's a very large influx of refugees from the Middle East, from Northern Africa, kind of coming over from, you know, they have to filter through like Italy and Southern Europe first before they hit the north. And so there's usually always been a sort of like these border countries, right, where they have to kind of come up through, you know, like Italy and Hungary and Ukraine and stuff like that before they can get into Northern Europe. But this is a thing that's happening. These are demographic changes. And they're demographic changes that people in Europe have never dealt with before. So we in the United States, we're kind of used to this. We've always had large numbers of non-white people in the United States, right? Black people, in particular Latinos, though. I mean, for decades and decades. In fact, it's going to be sometime within this century that, you know, people of Latino descent will be the majority in the United States. But it's not like the black people and the white people are disappearing. No, they're not. And that's that's another thing that you'll get from these morons. You know, they'll talk about shit like the Great Replacement and stuff. In fact, all throughout this woman's little speech, you're going to hear dog whistles, like Great Replacement dog whistles, that kind of stuff like that, right? No, it's not. That shit isn't happening. It's just that as the entire population grows, including white people, the population of white people growing too, the population of Latinos grows faster. That's what's going on in the United States, right? Well, how is any of this due to the ruling class? How is it their fault? That is, of course, another dog whistle. The idea that the ruling class, quote unquote, is a Jewish cabal who are importing minorities on purpose in order to outbreed the white people, i.e. the Great Replacement. That's what this woman is talking about. When she says that the people of Ireland have revolted against the ruling class, that's what she's talking about. She's talking about Jews, the JQ folks. You notice they always have to hide it. They always hide it in between use these dog whistles and stuff. Try to obscure their actual real meaning so that only the people in the know can actually see what their power level is. And I wish I was making that up, but that's the actual term these people use. Hide your power level, like in fucking Dragon Ball Z. I wish that shit was... it sounds fucking stupid as hell, but it's true. That's exactly what it is. And that's exactly what this woman is referring to. Moving on.
It starts with the indoctrinating of our kids in all of their classrooms and in their schools. It starts with the TV and the programs and the social media talking heads. You see, when the left go out and riot and deface public monuments and stop Thanksgiving parades from happening with their bullshit, that's called peaceful protesting, you see. But when the right does it, Oh, when the people stand up against the governing class like in Ireland, what do they call it? All the media jump on board, and what do they say? Right-wing rhetoric.
Well, no, it would be riots. That is the word that you're looking for, riots. Now, I didn't actually hear about the thing at Thanksgiving until a few days after, but from what I understand, some people just sort of blocked the Thanksgiving Day parade. Isn't that what happened? Was there violence there? Was there violence? Because, you saw what this woman just said. Oh, when the left goes out and when they peacefully protest. Well, I mean, was it a peaceful protest on Thanksgiving? From what I can tell, it was. I mean, I didn't actually watch the parade. I don't know. Were there riots there? Were there like leftists and stuff, black bloc type guys running around smashing windows and shit, destroying the fucking Macy's Thanksgiving parade? Or was it just like a bunch of protesters? I think they were protesting violence in the war in Israel, right? The Hamas war and the slaughter of fucking Palestinians. The wanton fucking destruction and slaughter of civilians. Isn't that what they were protesting? So, I mean, can anybody name the difference about what happened in Ireland versus the Thanksgiving Day parade? Doesn't it have to do with something like one of those is an actual protest and another one is a riot? Isn't that sound about right?
No, this is called the people standing up and saying enough is enough. And you know what? More needs to happen. All of you people that are like Palestine to the sea, all that bullshit. I don't think it's so easy to stand in the safety and comfort of America where you are accepted and perfectly safe by causing nothing but chaos and bullshit. And people are getting sick and tired of it.
Yeah, okay, so that's another horseshit fucking take on the Israeli war, the Israel-Hamas war. You always see these people like say that shit. They go, well, they'll say it, especially when it comes to someone who may be like gay or lesbian or something, and they'll be protesting against the war. And then these people will come up and say, oh yeah, well, how come you don't go to the West Bank right now? Or how come you don't go to Gaza right now dressed the way you are? And see what they say. See if they support you, right? And what are they trying to say? It's like, oh, because they're all terrorists that hate gay people. And it's true. Religious fundamentalists usually do not like gay people. Usually do not like lesbians, do not like trans people. That is 100% true. And if you were to probably go to Gaza, there would probably be people who would not be very nice to you. Because the population of Gaza has been radicalized. Why have they been radicalized? Because Israel keeps dropping bombs on them every 5 years or so. They keep taking away their land, stealing their houses, murdering them and stuff. I just saw a story about a kid. You know how they did this, the prisoner exchange? They had that sort of very short-lived ceasefire that only went for like 5 days, and they released a bunch of prisoners. I just saw a story about like a kid, a teenager, who went to one of the jails because one of his relatives was being let out of jail. And while he was sitting there waiting for the IDF to release his like relative, like they shot him and he died. As he's sitting there waiting for his brother or whatever to get released from prison, they kill him. And this is during the ceasefire. This is during when they weren't supposed to be killing people. I don't know. What did he do? Did he do anything? Probably didn't fucking do shit. We don't know. But do you think how fucking ridiculous is that? It's like, oh yeah, this is ceasefire, all this other stuff. 16-year-old kid dead. I mean, I would be radicalized too, that's my point there. It's like, it's no wonder these people are radicalized, number one. Number two, not everyone in Gaza is a terrorist. There are gay people that live in Gaza. I'm sure you guys understand that. I'm sure you understand there are trans people there. I'm sure you understand that not every single person that lives in Gaza is part of Hamas. Somewhere around, I think it's around 16,000 people are dead now. Are all 16,000 of them part of Hamas? About 8,000 of those are women and children. So are those like child soldiers that Hamas was training? Are they giving them like machine guns, sending them out to go fight? Are they putting like grenades in their backpacks and then having them go suicide bomb themselves and shit? Is that what they're doing? No, of course not. You listen to this woman, oh, we should do more. They should do more. Because going around, like, you know, like talking about the Irish people, they should have done more. Going out, beating the shit out of people and killing them and stuff and having a giant fucking riot wasn't enough for her. She wants there to be more violence. People aren't gonna fucking take it. Ridiculous.
How many more videos you can see of climate change protesters where people have had enough and they grab them and they toss them to the side of the road and drive through? More.
That's the other thing that really kind of makes me sad to hear that. That makes me sad, okay? A lot of this shit makes me angry, but that one right there. Climate change protesters are basically the only people trying to do something to essentially save mankind right now. And the fact that the right wing in this country has just completely demonized them to the point where this one right here, did you hear what she just said? Oh, they're just going to grab them and throw them to the side. Run them over. Drive right through. Let's listen to what exactly did she say?
Protesters where people have had enough and they grab them and they toss them to the side of the road and drive through.
Grab them, toss them to the side of the road and drive right through. See that? Doesn't give a flying fuck about the actual environment or what's going on. Doesn't care about that at all. And that's just makes me sad because in order for us to actually like save civilization from like its oncoming inevitable collapse is that we need buy-in from everybody. We will need buy-in from the right wing in order to actually enact the kind of changes that are needed in order to stop global climate change, which means that we're not going to be able to stop global climate change. We're not going to be able to stop it. We're not going to stop it. If we can't get this person or the millions of people who think just like her to take global climate change seriously, then we're screwed. We're screwed. We're absolutely screwed. And it doesn't matter how many solar panels you put on your house. It doesn't matter how many electric cars you buy. It doesn't matter how many soda cans you fucking recycle. It doesn't matter. No. I could go out right now. I could get 1 million people to live a completely 100% carbon neutral lifestyle in this country. That's not going to stop it. It's not going to stop it because we need systemic change that basically only comes with a fucking mass movement with the force of the law behind it. That's the only thing that's going to stop. This doesn't mean that there isn't good things that are happening. You know, California, for example, seems to be on a plan in order to phase out usage of fossil fuels completely, at least in their auto industry, by the year 2035. I mean, that would be a giant fucking step. No more gas cars at all being sold in California, right? Now, it'll probably be a few more decades until all of the gas cars are gone, and there'll still be gas. There'll still be gas stations, that kind of thing. But that's a giant step. But just California doing that is not going to stop global warming. It's not going to stop global climate change. If maybe every state did that, then maybe we might actually get somewhere. If every single state did the exact same thing that California's doing, that Germany's doing. Right now, Germany has something around 60% of all of its energy comes from renewable sources. California is much better than that. California, it's somewhere around 63% of all the energy comes from renewable sources. It's actually kind of amazing. It's not enough. It has to be all of us. If everybody was doing this, every country, every state in the United States, every country in Europe, Canada, everybody, if we were all doing this, then maybe we might be able to make a dent. But it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen because people like this don't take the fucking shit seriously. Why don't they take it seriously? I mean, it's the media they consume doesn't take it seriously. That and the fact that they're too fucking stupid or too unwilling to actually research shit, as we'll find out in a minute. Continuing on.
More people need to start standing up. How much more are we willing to watch our country be eroded from the inside out by the governing class who has let tens of millions of people walk into this country with no background checks, no money, no housing, and you and I, the taxpayers, are going to have to pay for it?
Right there. That is a classic great replacement dog whistle right there. The governing class is allowing tens of thousands of people to waltz right in, and we're going to have to pay for it. What people? Non-white people. Right? Do you really think this woman would be complaining like this if all of these immigrants were from Sweden? Probably not. So, and I just want to kind of like say that. I want to point that out. I'm pointing it out repeatedly over and over because it's important. Because we really should not ignore the fact that racism is a giant motivating factor for all of this hatred. Because they like to cloak their racism in this veneer of public safety. What is she really saying? Oh, it's public safety and all that. Our country is disintegrating from the inside out because they're allowing all of these criminals in here and stuff like that. But what is she really fucking saying? You know, read between the lines, right? And see what she's actually fucking talking about.
How much more are we willing to stand up? Because Dublin and the Irish basically said, fuck around and find out, and they lit up Dublin last night against the governing class. I keep saying this. We outnumber...
Against the Jews. When she says against the governing class, every time she says that, dog whistle, she's really saying against the Jews.
Keep saying this. We outnumber them. So how much more are we willing to sit back and watch as our country gets torn apart by the sickos? Our women and our women's sports being pushed aside so men can be in them, in our safe places and in our bathrooms. And if you dare speak out and if you dare say, no, I'm not okay with this as a woman, well, you're just a hateful bigot, right?
Yes, you are a hateful bigot. First off, what the fuck does trans rights, like, you know, so she just went on some turfy shit right there. Right? Some anti-trans shit. What the fuck does that have to do with immigration? What does that have to do with it? Nothing. Nothing at all. I mean, is she trying to say that, that the quote-unquote ruling class is importing trans people to kick her out of her bathroom or some shit like that? Like, no. It's because, and it's a good example, the reason why this is important, why I want to bring this video to everybody's attention, right, is because this woman right here, to her, there's no distinction between anything that's even remotely left of fascist. It's all the same to her, right? Being an immigrant, being a non-white person, being a non-Christian, being gay, being trans, being a black person, being a leftist, being an environmentalist. It's all the same to her. This is all just being a commie or whatever to this person. They just lump it all together. And that's the thing we got, you know, people, we got to remember as people who are nominally on the left, even if you're just like, not like very nominally on the left, like I am. I'm not really much of a leftist. I'm not a communist or anything. You know, I want socialized medicine. I don't think you could really call me a leftist, though. But still, even somebody like me, whose involvement with the left is limited to wanting universal health care and, like, stuff like that, and, like, police reform. And, you know what I mean? Like, that's what makes me a leftist, is the fact that I want people to have health care, and I want people to have educations, and I want police to not murder people, and I want to do something nice for the environment. Like, why is the fact that I want there to be a clean environment and like justice to make me a communist? Like, doesn't make any sense. But to this person, I might as well be a communist. I might as well be fucking Che Guevara and shit. You know, I might as well grow out a giant Marxist beard, you know, be like Karl Marx beard and shit, right? Start fucking speaking Russian or whatever. Change my fucking last name to Lenin. Like, I might as well do all this stuff, right? Because to her, it's all the same. And that's what really you need to understand, is that it's not just minorities. It's not just religious minorities. It's not just racial minorities. No, it's It's everybody who isn't them. Everybody who is not part of the in-group is a target. So when you see these people and you see violence against a particular group, you know, that's why being in solidarity is so important. You know, that's why it's important to stand up when you see gay people being abused, when you see trans people being targeted, when you see that kind of thing happening, when you see these people like taking the brunt of right-wing hate. This is why it's important to stand up with them. Okay? Because they'll come for you next. Because to them, to the crazy right-wing fascists like this woman, it's all exactly the fucking same. It's exactly the same. If you're not white, if you're not Christian, if you're not a fucking right-wing insane person, you might as well be a tanky, I guess. You might as well fucking, like, I don't know, might as well be a communist. Because they don't put any distinction to it. And if you think that they're going to stop once they take away all the rights for the gay people and all the rights for the trans people, and then once they ban abortion, and you think they're going to stop there? They're not. They won't be satisfied until everyone in the country is white and forced to be Christian. And and anyone who isn't is either living as like a second-class citizen by law or deported, you know, without any like rights, without any voting rights, without any rights to live and pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It just really fucking bugs me. It bugs me to hell because in the left we're very, very segmented. We are just. This is why the right wing keeps fucking winning. Because we can't even like motivate ourselves to go out and support like the one candidate who's not fascist. We can't even like get our shit together enough to like win enough elections in order to keep the fucking Senate or the House for more than a couple of years. And then we wonder why shit never gets done. It's like, because we need to fucking be together. We need to actually vote as a block. We do. We're only powerful when we work together. And plenty of people on the left just don't seem to fucking understand that. Moving on.
No. This shit has to stop. And the only way it stops is if more and more of us stand up and stand together and say we're done with the bullshit. Riley Gaines just won a lawsuit of like $1.2 million because she stood up amongst the sea of hate and said, no, you're not doing this. And more of us need to start standing together. My family's locked, loaded, and ready. How much more? What's your breaking point? How much more of our country are you willing to watch slide into recession while the rich politicians get rich off of our backs while causing and funneling war money of our money into other countries' wars while Americans suffer? How much more? You can't even have a Thanksgiving Day parade without the fucking crazies. It's real easy to stand in the comfort and safety of America. If you really stood with them, you'd be standing over in Gaza with your cardboard signs, but you know you're not going to do that. Why? Because you wouldn't be standing long.
Lots to unpack there. First thing you'll notice is she says we need to do more, and then she follows that up with my family's locked and loaded. So what does we need to do more actually mean? She wants to start killing people. That's what she wants to do. That's what that means. We need to do more. More than what's going on and more than those riots that happened in Ireland, where they went out and, you know, random fucking hooligans went around and just beat the crap out of anybody who wasn't white. She wants more than that. She wants actual bloodshed, violence in the streets. She wants people getting shot and murdered. She wants lynchings. That's what she's talking about when she says that. And then she immediately follows it up with, yeah, my family's locked and loaded. Read between the lines, folks. First thing. Second thing, you'll see there, she talked about Riley Gaines. I mean, I still don't understand how you can link, like, logically in your brain, that you can link trans rights with immigration. It just doesn't make sense to me. It's like, just, I mean, I know intellectually why. It's because those are both things that are not part of the in-group. Fascists hate immigration, and fascists also hate trans people, so it makes logical fucking sense that they would lump them together. I mean, I guess it just goes to show it's like fascism is just not logical. It just does not make any sense to me. But I wanted to kind of bring attention to that little thing that she said there about Riley Gaines. Let's kind of go back to that part. It was right here.
We're done with the bullshit. Riley Gaines just won a lawsuit of like $1.2 million because she stood up amongst the sea of hate and said...
Okay, now what does that actually say? America's last line of defense. The Dunning-Krueger Times. I think you could all see where I'm going with this. The Dunning-Krueger Times. Okay. So I looked up here. This is the actual article from the Dunning-Krueger Times. I'm sure all of you know what Dunning-Krueger actually means. It was a study, I believe. Supposedly the study was that people who are incompetent, in so many words, I'm sort of paraphrasing it, the more incompetent somebody was, the less likely they were to know that they were incompetent. I think it was something like that. I mean, I'm no expert, I'm not a sociologist, but I think that's what it was. And then people who are more like intelligent tend to understand that they're not as competent at certain things. Something like that, right? So that has kind of entered the vernacular, though, for shorthand. When you say Dunning-Krueger, it's shorthand for people who are too fucking stupid to know they're stupid. No, but that's what it basically means. When you say Dunning-Krueger, it means like you're a fucking idiot and you're so dumb that you don't even know how dumb you are. Right? So Dunning-Krueger Times, America's last line of defense, is, of course, a satire kind of site. It's like The Onion kind of thing. It's like, yeah, where they put up funny stories and kind of bait people into eating the onion. And that's exactly what this is. Riley Gaines settles civil lawsuit against Leah Thomas for $1.2 million. So, quick recap on who the hell is Riley Gaines. Well, she was a failed swimmer who in some championship somewhere, I can't remember exactly, she came in 5th place, I believe. And what it was is that she got really butthurt because the person who came in 4th place was a transgendered woman who was an athlete. And then she got doubly butthurt because they didn't have a trophy for the 6th place people. There's no trophy. You're in 6th place. It's no fucking trophy for that. So she got really fucking really butthurt over that because the actual trophy went home with the person who actually won 5th place. It was either 4th or 5th place. I think it was 5th place. I don't know. I'm not going to look it up. And anyway, Riley Gaines, instead of going home and training a bunch more and then coming back next time and doing better, instead she got extremely super duper butthurt over this entire thing and has since parlayed her butthurtedness into a career as a right-wing influencer. Riley Gaines was cheated out of one of the greatest moments of her life by a swimmer with a clear advantage. It cost her more than just a national championship. It also cost her a spot on the women's national team. The NCAA had nothing to say about it, so Riley did what she had to and got a lawyer. After more than a year, it finally paid off. Gaines settles out of court with Thomas for $1.2 million. It's justice, said Gaines. For every little girl who tries her hardest and loses to someone who cheats, Gaines will put the money into her private foundation for children. The NCAA president, Joe Barron, says the league is pleased with the outcome and looks forward to moving past the issue. It's a true win for Riley Gaines, the little girl who dreamt of standing alone in 5th place rather than next to someone who tied her by cheating. So in real life, yeah, I guess it was 5th place. They didn't tie. See, the other person, Leah Thomas, actually beat her, came in before her by like 1/10 of a second or some shit like that. So she was the actual winner. But then they said, if I believe right, they said that, you could take a photo, like, because there was no trophy for the 6th place person. And so she said, okay, well, you can take a photo with with this other trophy. But then, like, that wasn't good enough or something. So anyway, moving on. Riley was never that good, said Emma Wynette, who actually lost a championship spot to Thomas, but at least she's feisty. Maybe with all that money, she'll be able to buy some more talent and try out for the women's team again next year. The women's team says there's no intention of signing a little Tommy Lauren wannabe to its roster. She's just, no fun to be around. Search Riley Gaines laughing and see what you come up with. The poor thing probably needs lots of therapy after her ordeal. At least she's got a boatload of fictional cash to start a new life. It's not how you get there, it's the arrival that matters or something like that. God bless America. So obviously, the article is satire. It's obvious satire. If you would just read the actual name of the website, you would know that it was satire. So this person, this crazy woman here, didn't do either of those things. Why did she quote that? Why did she put this in her video? Because she was arguing with somebody on a forum or something like that. On a forum, and then somebody posted it. Somebody posted it on a forum or on Reddit or on Facebook or something like that. And she just read the headline and then immediately put it in her video without actually reading the article. That's what happened. Okay, why? Because she's a fucking moron. I mean, that's what I hope happened. I hope she didn't actually read this. I hope she didn't actually read this and then think like it was real. Because, I mean, did she read the entire thing, even this part at the bottom here, right? And think this shit was real? Here's the thing about this, right? There's a bunch of comments. Are these actual, real comments here? Are these real comments? Are these real people, biting, eating the onion here? Standing alone in 5th place, that should rear 1st place. What? That is what it says, right? That should rear 1st place. Maybe these are fake comments. Maybe these are comments made by bots or something, because that doesn't make any sense. Something needs to be done about this transgender crap. First is for our poor excuse of a government needing to stop pushing it down our throats. What transgender competition? Fine, men's, women's, transgenders, but that might be offensive to male to female, since they won't be able to compete with women, knowing full well they're still losers. I think this guy's a bot? I hope so. I mean, then again, someone who comments on an article from the Dunning-Krueger Times thinking that it's real, I mean, they're not top shelf liquor themselves there, right? Fergus. The Gooberment has invested in using this woke DEI vomit as a dividing wedge, as distraction, so they can advance their crap and other social engineering attacks, divide and conquer until we are their sheep. Whoever wrote this article considered another possession, agreed it was a hard read. I mean, I can't tell, folks. I can't tell if these comments are actually real or if they're fake. If these comments are planted here by the same writers who wrote the satirical article. So are these satirical comments? I mean, I don't know. I can't tell. She's doing a great job fighting for real women's rights in sports, since con men are stealing our opportunities to educate yourself. Last but not least, she's a beautiful, brave, and intelligent, qualities that are rare to find nowadays. That really sounds like that could be a real comment. I mean, if it was a satirical comment, it would be more ridiculous, wouldn't it? So are these actual real people posting on this, thinking this shit is actually real? I don't know. It's sad and disturbing, and ridiculous is what it is. And I think that is pretty much why I wanted to share that with you. I do want to say one more little thing on that before we end it, folks, right? Like I said before, we need these people in order to actually make the world a better place. We need them. We're going to have to get their buy-in. at the very least, because they are a large portion of our population. I mean, just counting, if we just counted just the hardcore, excuse me, if we just counted the MAGA people, right? If we not just counting every Republican in the United States, just the MAGA people, right? That's roughly 30% of the population. Isn't that right? That's about 120 million people, roughly. That's a very high, very, very high level estimate, right? So 120 million people, just using that as a barometer, using the fact that these are people who would vote for Donald Trump again after his disastrous run, first run at the presidency, where he almost like destroyed democracy and tried to take over the country in a fucking coup, and they would still support him. Just using those people as a barometer, right? Because that's guaranteed who this woman would vote for. 33% of the population, 120 million people, right? We cannot get systemic change in the country when 120 million people are against it. It's just not possible, especially when these people have control of widespread media and the billionaire backers with billions and billions of dollars to basically pump into their causes and buy their way into the government, right? Especially in that case, it's not going to happen. How do you reach somebody like this? How do you reach someone who just is like completely unintellectual and not interested? Like, how do you reach someone who's just not interested in the truth? That someone like this woman that we were just looking at, right? All she cares about is what makes her feel good. All she cares about is poning the libs and making the liberals cry and doing everything she can to hurt immigrants and minorities and gay people and trans people. That's all she wants. And that woman is motivated purely by hate. People like this are incapable of coming together for the common good. These are the kind of people that let's say, for example, you're a little kid and, they have cupcakes in class that day and there's one cupcake left and the teacher says, hey, share your cupcake with this other kid. And instead of sharing it, you throw it on the ground and stomp on it. Because that way he doesn't get it, even though you don't get it either. That's the kind of mentality that we've got with these people. They would rather burn everything down than have to share it with everyone else. I mean, ultimately, what does immigration, non-white immigration, mean to this country? It means that the white power structure is going to have to change because white people will be a minority. So they're not going to be able to run the country to specifically benefit themselves anymore, as it has been running for the last 200 years. So these are people who would rather than give that up, rather than give up the privilege that they have, they would rather destroy everything. And that's what we're seeing happen. That is exactly what's going on right now. With the environment, with the economy, with everything. They'd rather burn it all down than to see equality, than to have to share their fucking cupcakes. How do you reach somebody like this? Spoilers, folks, you don't. You don't. Can we accomplish the things we need to accomplish in order to survive and make the world a better place without the involvement of these Dunning-Krueger people? Is that possible? I don't think so. We're going to have a very, very rough future here, folks. I think people need to be prepared. I think lots of people are going to be very upset in 20 or 30 years looking at the state of our country and the world. And Let's just never forget, though, why it's happening.
Hello folks, if you like what I do and you want to support the channel, please consider buying something from my Etsy shop, supporting me on Patreon, liking and subscribing, and checking me out across my social media links listed below. Thank you all so much, and see you next time.